I agree. I agree. I do believe that is correct. I do believe that somebody in the Mossad or some other intelligence agency was creating digests concerning their ruminations on various Marxist Leninist tendencies that were ongoing during the late 70s, early 80s, up through the late 80s to early 90s. And were underwriting securities on suicides, or rather taking kinds of military tactics that had been applied before, both in the context of Middle East resistance, but also resistance elsewhere in the world, specifically the concept of the car bomber and or somebody taking some sort of incendiary device and being willing to offer their own life as a means by which to detonate it in order to effectuate a military outcome. And then they were underwriting securitization on potential bidding, basically, for the successful execution of a military operation that could then be classified or characterized as a suicide attack, with an understanding that if it was characterized as a suicide attack, then that would allow for the termination of any transmission or transmittal of the intangibles, including anything connected to the estates associated with the people involved, i.e., suicide, the consciousness. And if they're able to also imbue it with a sensibility, especially over a generation or two, that the Marxist Leninist or secular humanist manners in which to pursue social justice were not paying off. And so one would have to recede into some sort of spatial time dissonance that would then live in accordance with some sort of prophetic tendency and allow and normalize oneself to a concept of sacrifice in the immediate life, with an understanding that in the afterworld or in a later life there might be some form of retribution, then all the better for those that are really concerned about preserving their own material security and or the material security of their progeny. I believe that's really what the whole suicide mission concept is, both abroad and also domestically, as well as the sort of psychological impact. It's a little different in the United States to be murdered. To be murdered, to know how that murder was accomplished, to know how people were murdered, how that murder was accomplished, to even know the companies writing on the benefits of that murder, to see it technologized, to see it medicalized, to see it's that blatant, that precise, and nobody calls it murder. They call it healthcare. It's the same thing. A society of people so broken that they can't even conceive of a concept of social justice outside of a attachment to and an agitation for the acknowledgement of their sickness. Our sickness becomes our identity. Our sickness becomes our salvation. Our sickness becomes our power. The absolute inversion of what it meant to be whatever else we could have been. How does this go? How does it go on for time? I don't know. I've hit my double 12. So, are we finally closed out? Did I finally make the risk paradigm?